Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the dusty mining tunnels of Kepler 442b. The air was thick and heavy, making every breath feel like work. Around him, hundreds of humans moved like ghosts, their faces empty and tired. They had been digging in these rocks for 12 hours straight, and they still had 4 more hours to go. 50 years ago, Jake had been a captain in the United Earth Defense Force. He commanded 300 soldiers and flew the fastest ships humanity had ever built. Now he counted rocks and made sure the mining machines kept working. The Zephyrians had taken his uniform, his rank, and his pride, but they had not taken his memory. The alien stood 9 feet tall with skin that looked like blue crystal. Their eyes glowed white, and they never seemed to get tired. When they first came to Earth, they said they wanted to help. Earth was dying then. The oceans were rising, the air was poison, and people were fighting wars over the last clean water. The Zephyrians promised to save everyone who would work for them. They lied. Jake stopped at Mining Station 7 where Lisa Carter was fixing a broken drill. She used to be one of the smartest people on Earth, a doctor who understood how atoms worked and how to make energy from nothing. Now she spent her days keeping alien machines running. "How bad is it?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up from the machine. Her hands were covered in oil and her hair was gray now, though she was only 45. "The power core is acting strange again. These machines work different than anything we had on Earth." "Different how?" Lisa glanced around to make sure no Zephyrians were watching. "The energy comes from somewhere else, like it reads your mind and gives you what you think about. But the aliens don't seem to know that. They just push buttons and hope it works." Jake felt something stir in his chest. It was the first time in years that Lisa had sounded excited about anything. "Keep studying it," he said quietly. "But be careful." On the other side of the tunnel, Pete Rodriguez was loading rocks into a transport cart. Pete had been a Marine on Earth, one of the best fighters Jake had ever seen. His hands were scarred now from years of moving sharp stones, but his eyes still held fire. "We lost another one today," Pete said when Jake walked over. "Old man Danny. His heart just stopped during the shift." Jake closed his eyes. Danny had been 72 years old. Too old to be working in the mines, but the Zephyrians did not care. If you could move, you worked. If you could not move, you disappeared. "That makes 15 this month," Pete continued. "How many more are we going to watch die?" Before Jake could answer, the tunnel filled with blue light. A Zephyrian guard floated toward them, his feet not touching the ground. His name was something humans could not say, so they called him Razor because of the sharp edges on his face. "Human Morrison," Razor said. His voice sounded like wind through broken glass. "Production in Sector 7 is down by 3%. Today, explain." Jake stood straight the way he used to when talking to his generals. "Machine broke down. Lisa fixed it. We will catch up tomorrow." Razor's white eyes got brighter. "Humans make many excuses. Perhaps you need motivation." He pointed at a young woman carrying water to the workers. "Human Kate, come here." Kate Walsh dropped her water containers and walked over. She was 28 and had been on the mining planet for 3 years. She had a daughter, Amy, who lived in the children's barracks and only saw her mother for 1 hour each day. "Your productivity is also low," Razor said to Kate. "Perhaps you care more about work if child has less food." "Please," Kate said. "Amy is only 8 years old. She needs to eat." "Then work harder." Razor turned back to Jake. "All humans in Sector 7 will work 2 extra hours today. No food until quotas are met." Jake felt his hands become fists, but he kept them at his sides. Fighting would only make things worse. The Zephyrians had weapons that could turn a person to dust in seconds. More importantly, if Jake got himself killed, who would look out for the others? "We understand," Jake said. Razor floated away, leaving the humans alone in the tunnel. Kate was crying quietly, trying not to let the others see. Pete's face was red with anger. Lisa had gone back to her machine, but Jake could see her hands shaking. That night, in the barracks where 500 humans slept on metal beds, Jake could not close his eyes. Through the thin walls, he could hear Kate crying for her daughter. In the bed next to him, Pete was whispering to the man beside him about how many guards were on duty each night. Jake got up and walked to the small window that looked out at the alien buildings. The Zephyrian city was beautiful, with towers that reached into the sky and lights that changed colors like rainbows. The aliens lived in comfort while humans died in the dirt, but something was different tonight. In the distance, Jake could see lights blinking in a pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. It was Morse code, something the Zephyrians had never learned. Someone was sending a message. The next morning brought terrible news. Commander Vextar, the head of all Zephyrian forces in this part of space, was coming to visit. He was bringing scientists who wanted to study human children. They said the young minds could learn to operate Zephyrian machines better than adults. Kate screamed when they told her. Amy and 50 other children would be taken away forever, sent to a facility where they would forget their families and become perfect workers. The children would never grow up knowing love or freedom. They would only know work. "We have to do something," Pete said during the lunch break. "I won't let them take these kids." "What can we do?" asked Lisa. "They have ships, weapons, armies. We have rocks and broken tools." "We have something they don't," Jake said quietly. "We remember what freedom feels like." That afternoon, Jake made a decision that would change everything. He walked to an old computer terminal that the Zephyrians used to track production. It was connected to their main network, but they thought it was too simple for humans to understand. They were wrong. Jake entered his old military codes, the ones he thought had been erased decades ago. To his surprise, the system accepted them. Somewhere in space, the defense satellites that Earth had built were still working. The Zephyrians had tried to reprogram them, but did not understand how they really worked. For the first time in 50 years, Jake Morrison smiled. The screaming started at dawn. Kate Walsh ran through the barracks as Zephyrian guards dragged children from their beds. Little Amy was crying and reaching for her mother, but the alien hands were too strong. Kate tried to grab her daughter, but a guard pushed her back with a weapon that sent lightning through her body. "Mama!" Amy screamed as they carried her away. Jake Morrison heard the noise from 3 tunnels over. He dropped his tools and ran toward the sound, but Pete Rodriguez caught his arm. "Don't," Pete said. "They want us to fight now. They want an excuse to kill us all." Jake watched through the tunnel entrance as 50 children were loaded into a transport ship. Amy Walsh was among them, still calling for her mother. The ship lifted off and disappeared into the purple sky of Kepler 442b. Kate fell to her knees in the dirt. Her sobs echoed off the tunnel walls. Other parents stood nearby, their faces empty with grief. In one morning, the Zephyrians had broken 50 families forever. "This ends now," Jake said quietly. That night, Jake gathered 12 humans in the deepest part of the mine. The place was so far down that the Zephyrian sensors could not reach them. Lisa Carter was there, still covered in oil from working on the machines. Pete Rodriguez brought 3 other former soldiers. Kate Walsh came too, her eyes red but filled with something new. Anger. "I got into their computer system," Jake said. "The old Earth defense satellites are still working. The aliens tried to change the programming, but they did not understand it. They just connected them to their network and hoped for the best." "What does that mean?" asked Carl Baker, a man who used to fix cars before the aliens came. "It means we have weapons in space that they don't know about," Jake said. "But that's not all." He looked at Lisa. She had been studying the alien machines for weeks, taking them apart when the guards were not watching. "The power cores," Lisa said. "They work by reading thoughts. Human thoughts work better with them than Zephyrian thoughts. Our brains are more flexible. We can make the machines do things the aliens never imagined." "Like what?" Pete asked. Lisa smiled for the first time in years. "Like explode." She explained what she had learned. Every machine in the mine had a power core that connected to the main system. If a human touched the core and thought the right thoughts, they could make it overload. The explosion would not be huge, but it would be enough to destroy the machine and hurt anyone nearby. "I tested it on a small drill yesterday," Lisa said. The whole thing melted in 10 seconds. How many machines can we hit at once? Jake asked. Every single one in the mine. They are all connected to the same network. Jake felt his heart beating faster. For 50 years, humans had been slaves. They had been beaten, starved, and treated like animals. Their children had been stolen. Their hope had been crushed, but now they had a chance to fight back. Nick Campbell, Jake called to a thin man in the corner. Nick used to work with computers on Earth. He was quiet and scared, but Jake knew he was smart. I need you to get into their communication system, Jake said. Can you do that? Nick was shaking. I don't know. Their technology is so advanced. But you built our computer systems on Earth. You know how information moves through networks. Yes, but the aliens are smart, but they are lazy, Lisa said. They use the same basic principles we do. They just have bigger computers. Over the next 3 days, the small group of humans worked in secret. Nick learned how to access the Zephyrian communication network using the same terminals that tracked their work. He found something amazing. Humans were not only on Kepler 442b. There were mining operations on 17 different worlds, all with human slaves. Look at this, Nick said, showing Jake a list of locations. New Geneva, Titan Base, Proxima Station. There are millions of us out there. Can you contact them? I think so. The network connects everything. If I send a message on the right frequency, it should reach all the human workers at the same time. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. They were not alone. All across space, humans were digging in mines and building alien cities. If they could all fight at the same time, the Zephyrians would not be ready. On the fourth night, everything went wrong. Commander Vextar arrived at the mine with a full military unit. His ship was massive, covered in weapons that could destroy the entire planet. He brought scientists who wanted to study the human children they had taken, but he also brought news that made Jake's blood run cold. The human children show unusual ability with our technology, Vextar announced to the workers. We will take more. Every family will give us their youngest. They will learn to serve the Empire properly. Kate Walsh screamed again. She had already lost Amy. Now they wanted to take more children, babies who had never known freedom. No, she said, stepping forward. You cannot have them. Vexatar looked down at her with his glowing white eyes. Human female, you forget your place. My place is protecting my child. Your child belongs to the Empire now. Kate picked up a piece of broken rock and threw it at the alien commander. It bounced off his crystal skin without hurting him, but the action shocked everyone. A human had attacked a Zephyrian leader. Foolish, Vextar said. He raised his weapon toward Kate. That was when Jake Morrison gave the signal. Lisa Carter pressed her hands against the nearest power core and filled her mind with thoughts of fire and destruction. The machine screamed and exploded, sending sparks everywhere. The explosion started a chain reaction. Every mining machine in the tunnel began to overload at the same time. Pete Rodriguez and his soldiers jumped on the Zephyrian guards before they could react. The aliens were strong, but they had grown lazy after 50 years of easy control. The humans were desperate and angry and had nothing left to lose. Nick Campbell sent the message to 17 worlds at once. 3 words in every human language. Fight back now. The rebellion had begun. Vextar tried to call for help, but the communication system was chaos. Human voices were screaming across the network, organizing attacks on 18 different planets. Mining stations were exploding. Alien guards were being overwhelmed by workers who had finally had enough. Impossible, Vextar said as his own ship began to shake. Jake had activated the defense satellites, and they were firing on the Zephyrian vessels in orbit. For the first time in 50 years, humans were not afraid. The explosions lit up the night sky on 17 worlds at once. On New Geneva, Tony Baker crawled through the engine room of a Zephyrian warship while alarms screamed around him. The aliens had brought their best ship to stop the human uprising, but they made one mistake. They needed humans to fix their machines when they broke down. Tony had been fixing cars on Earth before the aliens came. Now he understood how their ships worked better than they did. He reached the main power core and placed both hands on the glowing crystal surface. "This is for my son," he whispered, thinking about the boy the aliens had taken 5 years ago. The ship's power core began to shake. Energy flowed through Tony's mind like water through a dam. He could feel the ship's systems responding to his thoughts. The Zephyrians had built the machine to obey, but they never understood that human minds could give it commands they never imagined. The warship began to tear itself apart from the inside. 3,000 miles away, on the mining planet, Kepler 4m42b, Jake Morrison watched the enemy ships burning in orbit. The old Earth defense satellites were working perfectly. The aliens had tried to reprogram them, but they had only made them stronger. "Status report," Jake called out. Pete Rodriguez ran over, his face covered in smoke. "We control the main mining complex. The aliens are trapped in their command center." "What about casualties?" 12 humans dead, but we took out over 200 Zephyrian guards. Lisa's power core trick worked on everything. Their own weapons turned against them. Jake felt proud and sad at the same time. 12 good people were dead, but they had died as fighters, not slaves. For the first time in 50 years, humans had won a battle. Nick Campbell was working at 3 computer terminals at once, his fingers flying over the alien keyboards. "Jake, you need to hear this. I'm getting reports from all the other worlds." "Good news or bad news?" "Both. The good news is that humans are winning everywhere. We took over 4 mining stations, 6 factory planets, and 3 shipyards. The bad news is that the Zephyrians are sending their main fleet to stop us." Jake felt his stomach drop. "How big?" 300 warships. They'll be here in 6 hours. Lisa Carter looked up from the alien computer she was studying. "I found something. The Zephyrians have been lying to us about more than just freedom. They've been enslaving other species too. Look at this." She showed Jake a list of planets on the screen. Each one had a different species working as slaves. The Drakmori were mining radioactive materials on planets too dangerous for Zephyrians. The Velkans were building ships in zero gravity where the aliens couldn't work. The Threnodi were growing food on worlds with poisonous air. "How many species?" Jake asked. 47. But here's the strange part. According to these records, no other species has ever fought back like we did. The Zephyrians are calling this the first rebellion in 300 years. "Why are we different?" Lisa smiled. "Because we're stubborn. And because we're good at breaking things." Commander Vexistar was trapped in his command center with 50 of his best soldiers. The building was surrounded by angry humans who had torn apart his guards with their bare hands. His communication system was chaos. Human voices were shouting battle plans in languages he could not understand. "How did this happen?" he demanded. His second-in-command, a Zephyrian named Kethril, checked his reports. "The humans have taken control of our own technology. They are using our weapons against us. Our ships are destroying each other. It should be impossible." "Explain." "Human brains work differently than ours. They can interface with our quantum systems in ways we never anticipated. When they touch our power cores, they can make them do anything." Vextar felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. For 300 years, the Zephyrian Empire had conquered every species they encountered. Their technology was superior. Their military was unstoppable. Their rule was absolute. But humans were different. They adapted. They learned. They fought back. "Send a message to the home fleet," Vextar ordered. "Tell them to prepare the planet, killers. If we cannot control the humans, we will destroy them all." Jake Morrison was planning the defense of Kepler 442b when the message came through. Nick Campbell had intercepted the Zephyrian communication and translated it into English. "They're going to destroy the planets," Nick said. "All of them. Every world where humans are fighting back." Jake felt the room go quiet. Kate Walsh was there, along with Pete Rodriguez and Lisa Carter. They had all lost so much. Now they were about to lose everything. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "The planet killer weapons are on their biggest ships. They'll be here with the main fleet in 6 hours. Can we stop them?" Lisa looked at her computer. "Maybe. I've been studying their weapon systems. The planet killers use the same quantum technology as everything else. If we can get someone close enough to touch the power core, it would be suicide, Pete said. Maybe. But if we don't try, everyone dies anyway. Jake looked around the room at the faces of the people who had become his family. 50 years ago, they had been strangers from different countries and different lives. Now they were united by something stronger than blood. They were united by the desire to be free. We need to contact the other worlds, Jake said. If we're going to do this, we do it together. Over the next hour, Nick Campbell worked to establish communication with human leaders on all 17 worlds. One by one, their faces appeared on the screens. Tony Baker from New Geneva, still covered in oil from the warship he had destroyed. Helen Price from Proxima Station, a former naval officer who had organized the rebellion there. Carl Torres from Titan Base, a teacher who had become a general. The Zephyrians are coming to kill us all, Jake told them. But we have one chance. We can turn their own weapons against them. We can make them afraid. What do you need? Helen asked. Volunteers. People willing to board their ships and overload the power cores. It's dangerous, but it might be our only hope. I'll do it, Tony said immediately. Me too, said Helen. One by one, humans from across the galaxy volunteered for what might be the last battle they would ever fight. They were not soldiers or heroes. They were miners and mechanics and teachers and farmers. But they were free now, and they were not going to be slaves again. The Zephyrian fleet was 6 hours away. The humans were ready. The Zephyrian fleet came out of space like a dark cloud. Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of a captured alien ship, watching 300 enemy vessels approach Kepler 442b. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in weapons that could turn planets into dust. The humans had 17 captured ships and the old Earth defense satellites. It should have been hopeless. But Jake was not afraid. All ships, this is Morrison, he said into the communication system. Remember what we learned. Their technology works better when we use it. Trust your instincts. Make them pay for every human they hurt. Helen Price answered from her ship near Proxima Station. Copy that, Jake. My team is ready. Tony Baker's voice came through from New Geneva. The planet killer ship is mine. I'm going in. Lisa Carter was working at the weapons console next to Jake. Power cores are responding. I can feel the ship wanting to fight. The battle began when the Zephyrian commander, General Zex Thul, sent a message to all human forces. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick, the alien said. Continue fighting and we will destroy your planet slowly, so you can watch everything burn. Jake Morrison's response was to fire every weapon on his ship at once. The space around Kepler 442b exploded into light and fire. Human ships, controlled by minds that understood both creativity and desperation, moved in ways the Zephyrians could not predict. Where alien tactics were organized and logical, human tactics were wild and unpredictable. Pete Rodriguez had taken control of the ship's engines. He made the massive vessel spin and dive like a fighter plane, confusing the enemy. Targeting systems. Come on, you crystal freaks, try to hit us now. The Zephyrians had superior numbers, but they were learning that humans were dangerous in ways they never expected. Lisa Carter touched the weapons controls and thought about every human who had died in the mines. The ship's guns began firing, faster than they were designed to, sending streams of energy that cut through alien shields like they were made of paper. On New Geneva, Tony Baker was inside the biggest Zephyrian ship in the fleet. It carried the planet-killer weapon that could destroy entire worlds. He crawled through maintenance tunnels while alien soldiers searched for him. Nick, can you hear me? Tony whispered into his communicator. Nick Campbell's voice crackled through, from Kepler 442b. I'm here, Tony. I'm tracking your position. The power core is 3 levels down. How many guards? 50. But they don't know you're there yet. Tony reached the power core chamber. It was a massive room filled with crystal, formations that pulsed with blue light. The energy in the air made his hair stand up. This was the heart of the ship, the source of power for the weapon that would kill billions of humans. He placed both hands on the largest crystal. Immediately, Tony felt the ship's systems flood into his mind. He could sense every weapon, every engine, every computer. The Zephyrians had built their technology to be controlled by logical, organized thoughts. But human minds were different. They could hold chaos and order at the same time. Tony thought about his son, taken by the aliens when he was only 6 years old. He thought about Kate Walsh crying for her daughter Amy. He thought about every human who had died as a slave. Then he pushed all that anger and pain into the ship's power core. The planet-killer weapon began to turn around, pointing at the Zephyrian home fleet instead of the human worlds. General Zexthal felt his command ship shaking and could not understand why. "Report," he demanded. "Sir, the planet killer is malfunctioning. It's targeting our own ships. That's impossible. Override the system." "We cannot, sir. Something is interfering with the controls." On 17 different worlds, humans who had lived as slaves for 50 years watched their own stolen ships turn against their former masters. The Zephyrian fleet was destroying itself, controlled by human minds that understood the technology better than its creators. Jake Morrison's ship rammed directly into the side of a Zephyrian cruiser. The impact should have destroyed both vessels, but Lisa Carter had overloaded the shields just before contact. The human ship survived while the alien cruiser broke apart. "That's for Danny," Pete Rodriguez shouted, remembering the old man who had died in the mines. Helen Price coordinated attacks from 12 different ships at once. Her mind, trained by years of naval strategy, turned the chaotic battle into a planned assault. Focus fire on their command ships, cut off their communications. The Zephyrians began to panic. For 300 years they had been the masters of the galaxy. Their technology was superior. Their military was unbeatable. But humans had taken that same technology and made it more powerful than it had ever been. Commander Vextar, still trapped on Kepler 442b, watched his empire burning in space. "How are they doing this?" he screamed. Kethrall checked his instruments with shaking hands. "Their neural patterns are compatible with our quantum systems, but in ways we never anticipated. They can make our machines exceed their design limits. Our own weapons are more deadly in their hands than in ours. Then we activate the final protocol." Vextar entered a code that would destroy every Zephyrian ship rather than let humans capture them. It was better to die than to be defeated by slaves. But Nick Campbell was faster. From his position on Kepler 442b, Nick had infiltrated every computer system in the Zephyrian fleet. When Vextar tried to activate the self-destruct, Nick turned the command back on the alien homeworlds instead. "No," Vextar whispered as he realized what was happening. The planet-killer weapons, now controlled by human minds, fired on the core worlds of the Zephyrian Empire. 300 years of conquest ended in a few minutes of brilliant light. The battle was over. Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian Command Center, looking at Vextar and the surviving aliens. They were no longer the tall, proud masters of the galaxy. They were just another species that had learned what happened when you underestimated humanity. "What do you want to do with them?" Pete asked. Jake thought about it for a long moment. The aliens had enslaved his people, stolen their children, and tried to destroy their worlds. It would be easy to kill them all. Instead, he made a different choice. "The same thing they offered us," Jake said. "Work with us as equals, or leave, and never come back." Most of the surviving Zephyrians chose to work with the humans. They helped free the other enslaved species across the galaxy. Within a year, 47 different worlds were independent. Kate Walsh found her daughter Amy on a prison ship near the Zephyrian homeworld. The little girl ran into her mother's arms, and they both cried tears of joy. The age of slavery was over. The age of freedom had begun.